We're now on page 33 of your working file, Colour, Fill and Palettes. We're going to have 3 distinct lessons on this page all about colour, and you will find them, it's a lot of very useful information that you will probably return to over time. So assimilate what you can, practice what you can, but remember you can always come back and look another time. Well, we're going to start out by looking at this section here and then the uniform fill dialog box. We've learnt some of this already. To fill an object with a colour, select the object and simply click on the colour palette, and that will fill the object with colour. To change the outline colour, simply right click your mouse on any one of the colour whorls, as you can see, and you can change the outline colour. Same with either of these objects. Now if you select 2 objects together and you do the same thing, well of course they will both become identical depending on what it is that you choose. So I'll just undo that quickly. Well, I haven't done an outline colour yet, so the outline colour won't be affected and it will stay individual until right click, I've done an outline colour, so they both change. The click and drag method is one that, well, to date we haven't looked at, so let's look at that. Simply click on a colour on the colour palette, click, hold down your mouse and begin to drag. In fact, I did that a little long just then. I'll come back to what you just saw then. Click and drag and you can see in fact, you know what? Let me just quickly come back here. If ever you do click on a colour, that's why that dialog box came up. Probably a good thing it did. I would have forgotten to mention this. If you have nothing selected whatsoever and you click on a colour, this dialog box will come up and it will ask you, well, do you want to change the default properties for when you create a graphic or you type artistic text or paragraph text? So if I, for example, click red, click OK, and then I create a square, it'll have a red fill. If I delete that, if I click blue, same thing, graphic, yes. From this point in time, every time I create an object, it'll have a blue fill. So that's how you can create default colors for your text or graphics, etc., etc. However, back to our click and drag method. If I simply click and drag, as you can see, I'm holding a color well. As I hover over the outside of an object, and I'm now over an outline, well, the color well becomes hollow, indicating it's an outline. If I release my mouse, well, the outline will become that color. So click and drag, release, and to do a fill, just wait till it becomes solid on the inside, release, and release, and that's another way to have a little bit more accuracy. Why would you want to do that? We'll learn a little bit more about that when we come down to these 2 graphics here. The extended color palette. This is tremendous because on our CMYK default color palette, the one that you'll have when you open up, we have a limited range of colors. Well, we can extend our range of colors by simply clicking on a color and holding our mouse down. For example, on black, if I click and hold, I get an extended palette of black through to darker grays. Again, click here, click, and I get grey through to lighter grey, and so on. What about if I do this with yellow? Click on yellow. This is a really good example because as you can see, the yellow is my center color, and these are all colors moving away from yellow in a particular direction. So for example, upward is a little bit more green, is it? So it's probably got a little bit of a blue mix or a bit of cyan mixed with the yellow. This way we're getting more toward pinks or browns, reds if you like. So it's probably got a little bit of magenta mixed in with it as well. So it's an extended color palette around the center color that you've chosen. Well, in the same way that you can use either of these, simply select a color, click and drag and drop. Or if you like, select your object first, extend the palette, so click and hold down, look for the color you want, simply click on it, and of course you can apply or mix up these 3 methods that you can see here. The last thing I want to look at quickly before we move on to our next lesson is the uniform fill dialog box. It's another way to extend the color range you can see. Let's select an object, and the uniform fill dialog box is Shift plus F11, or if you like, come over here to the fill tool, click the little fly out, and see the first option there, uniform fill. So Shift plus F11, and that's it there. What we're looking at first of all is our CMYK color palette, which is all of these colors here exactly the same as we have over here. If you are doing work on the web and you're familiar with hexadecimal colors, you'll find this of value. You can see the hex value of the color. If you're in the printing industry or working, you can see the actual CMYK values as you move around and select colors. Because this object is what we have selected, you can see here that's the selected or the old color. This color here is the new color that I'm selecting. So I get a preview before I click OK and decide, yes, that's what I want to use. You'll notice that when I leave this dialog box, I have a little eyedropper. If I now click on any color, it will automatically take me to that place on the palette, or as near as possible. Can you see that it jumped? I'll go back here. I'll go back to this palette here. Because we have a perfect match here in this palette with this color here, if I click here, I've also got a perfect match in the palette. If I click down here and I don't have a perfect match, it takes me over to one of the models where it's a little bit more of a mix. This is what you might call a custom color, and it's not presently in our color palette, but it is a CMYK color. Here I can move this little node around to get whatever color I want, or if I happen to really understand CMYK values, I can actually adjust that manually and it will automatically update. Again, I can still see my before and after color. So from the beginning, we've got a number of palettes we can choose from. Drop down, you can go to choose your RGB palette. There's a number of palettes in here. You can get to process palettes and so on. I'm not going to delve into that right now. We're going to stay with our CMYK palette, but the point is you can open a number of palettes. You can go to the Mixer tab. The Mixer tab gives you the ability to get a further extension on a single color range. So again, if I click that color there, that'll be the first color, and we can see the extension of that into darker colors. I can increase the range or lower the range if I want to. I can say that I want a cooler range of colors or a warmer range, or go into even lighter if I want to. But again, all starting with this sample color here. I can change the mixer model that I'm using. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. One that I do find interesting is the complement option. You'll find that opposites always tend to complement each other. So this is a great way of seeing some complement colors. So if I'm in this sort of orangey yellow range, you can see that the orange and the blue complement each other. Quite a common way of, well, opposites generally complement. So it's quite a convenient way of figuring out what is an appropriate opposite to a color. Okay? And again, finally, over here in the model area, we can really get ourselves into a range and, slide the little node wherever you want the node. Once you're happy with the color, click OK to apply that color, and away you go. So there you go. That's a way of coloring objects using your palette, moving into an extended color palette range, or select an object first, then Shift F11, and we can go into delving a lot further into custom colors and mixes, etc., etc. Okay, why don't you go ahead, just play with that, come back, and we're going to have a look at fountain fill.